The renewed mind is the key to the power that we need. The world is gonna see that it's Christ in me. The renewed mind is the key to the power that we need. It's the only way to be strong in victory. God has clothed us with his righteousness and power, and we live for him and our daytime and hour. We can stand upon the greatness of his word and proclaim the truth. We're gonna make it heard. We've got all the potential power God could ever give. Now we stand up on our legal rights and boldly make them live. The renewed mind is the key to the power that we need. The world is gonna see that it's Christ in me. The renewed mind is the key to the power that we need. It's the only way to be strong in victory. We can claim the rights that God gave you and me. We can live above all principality. As we move with God, his power lies within, giving us the strength to conquer and to win. We've got all the enablements his love and grace provide. Now we put that truth within our hearts and walk with all God's might. The renewed mind is the key to the Christ in me. The renewed mind is the key to the Christ in me. The renewed mind is the key to the Christ in me. We know that the renewed mind is the key to the power that we need. The world is gonna see that it's Christ in me. We know that the renewed mind is the key to the power that we need. It's the only way to be strong in victory. The renewed mind is the key to the Christ in me. The renewed mind is the key to the Christ in me. The renewed mind is the key to the Christ in me.
Oh God, I had to hit him with it, yo. Uncle Bobby was not ready. Was not. The renewed mind is the key to the Christ in me. The renewed mind is the key to the Christ in me. Oh,
dude, I was not. What the fuck was that? Holy shit!
Welcome, welcome everybody to another episode of The Blackout. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast, and as always, good people, I am in. And I am fucking in airplane mode. And I am joined by a man who God is going to have to do an awful lot of watching, because this man likes to do an awful lot of fucking. I am talking about the biggest, the baddest, the meanest, laying the pipe down, smack down. It is the murder nerd himself, Robert motherfucking Reed.
Love it. And I will never forgive you for making me watch that bullshit. As I'm sitting here watching that video, I'm like, yo, either they got paid a lot of money or they actually believe that shit, because that was horrible. And you could tell they were really trying to reach the younger audience, right?
Oh yeah,
the dance moves and the beat in the background, and it's just holy shit. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. The internet will kill religion one day. I don't care how many stupid songs and rap songs and all this. Oh, that was terrible. They're trying to reach the younger people. Younger people are going to keep pulling away, no matter how cool they try to be.
Yes,
that was fucking terrible.
Also, they were trying so hard to do like the R&B flavor in their church, but they didn't have any flavor in their church. So
no
in the
flavor,
none,
man.
no
and
swag.
The R and the B didn't stand for rhythm and blues; it stand for rock bottom.
Yes.
That is about as far down that you got to go. Someone had to sit in a meeting and be like, "This is what we're going to do. We're going to shimmy our shoulders. We're going to try to hip it up and make it super cool so the young kid will sing this song." They're not singing the song. They went straight from there to their home, put on Pornhub, and they jerked off like there was no tomorrow. They forgot that song the moment they finished it. It didn't work.
Absolutely. And they had 0.0 black people to get involved in that.
Not. When cultural appropriation goes bad.
Tree said mayonnaise and Xanax is a flavor.
I got to remember that. That's a good one.
All right, so let's get straight into today's show. We are going to be talking about the blaming and shaming of purity culture with Seth Andrews. So I titled today's episode, God Likes to Watch, We Like to Fuck.
I got to do a show entitled that. That's fucking fantastic. That's brilliant because it's true. It's true. And he's sitting there critiquing your technique, and God is the biggest freak there is. You know, he makes your most seasoned porn star look like a virgin. So yeah, we likes to fuck, he likes to watch. I like it. This should be terrible.
So let's get us into this. All right. So first we got it. There's the boom. That's the Autobots. Okay.
You do it.
All right. There's the Autobots transform.
Yep.
We already blow up Shuated.
You missed a step. You forgot to roll out.
Oh, we gotta fucking
roll out.
Fucking scratch out. Let's fucking forget it. Just fucking forget it. We're gonna do that. All right. So first, we're gonna fucking gotta get in the right order. We got an Autobots transform.
Yep.
Then we got to roll out.
Wow.
Then we got to blow up Shuate.
You got it.
And now we can roll his fucked up ass tape.
Let's roll the fucked up.
This is literally better music than that
song. So I was back at my table earlier and somebody bought a book from me. And I wasn't able to make change at the time. And I know this is a mistake with this audience, but who do I owe $10 to? Raise your hand. Hey, it's an honor to be back. It's a real joy to be here. And I'm so glad that all of you are here. They stuck me right before dinner, so I'll give you the choice. We can do an abbreviated version and you can go eat, or we can go full Monty. What do you want?
All right.
Okay.
All right, gang, before we do this, let's get a fucking cheers in. Is not, we can't be sober for this.
No, God, no. I shouldn't have been sober for that song.
That's exactly what I should have done.
Jesus.
I should have said, empty that goddamn tumbler before this.
Oh, God, yeah.
So you didn't really have a choice. I'm giving you the illusion of control, but all right. How many of you remember your first kiss?
Oh, yeah. Lisa.
I see some smiles, a few frowns.
Damn, do I remember my first kiss? I guess, yeah. Way back when.
I remember my first kiss. I will never forget her name. Her name was Beline. Now, I met Beline in my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was 14, and my mother thought it would be a good idea for my sister and I to get some real-life work experience, even though we weren't 16 of legal age to get a job. We need to train up some work ethic in these two. And so we signed up to be volunteers at a local hospital. And think of Candy Striper 2.0. We ran errands and did that kind of thing. And all of the Junior Guild volunteers, the young people, had to wear these green smocks. And oh, lovely Beline rocked the smock.
Nice, Maya.
We were both assigned to the 9th floor, St. John Hospital, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we did what gophers do. We delivered IV bags and paperwork and ran errands for the various medical staff. And then between jobs, we would just hang out and get to know each other.
Who the fuck drinks unsweetened tea?
Communist. Communist. That's easy. I saw that.
Oh,
tweet.
That is so
terrible.
wrong. It's just so wrong.
Now, Beline was a vision. This is not Beline, right? I didn't hang on to a freaking 40-year-old picture of Beline and keep it with me. This is a stock image, but it captures a lot about what I remember about Beline, how she sort of appears in my mind and my heart, that light and lovely complexion surrounding those ocean blue eyes. Blonde hair that she washed in lemon juice that she said gave it a luster and a texture. And she had a genetic hearing loss, which sort of affected how she rounded out her consonants. I found that tremendously charming. Her teeth, much too perfect for a 15-year-old. And yes, since she was 15 and I was 14, Beline was an older woman. Our job, running errands, which meant we were always taking the elevator. And on one very special day that summer, I noticed she was standing close enough to me to almost touch me. I did not move away. Next errand, I stood a little closer to her. She did not move away. Next elevator ride, we were standing like this, and the time after that, we kissed. And that moment was electric. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was doing it, right? I was doing it. A few seconds of passion before ding, and the elevator door opened, and we walked out and tried to look like nothing else had been going on. Of course, my next thought was, we need to run more errands, right?
Who needs coffee?
Oh, the long, hot summer. But sadly, when the summer ended, we both went on our separate ways and got on with our separate lives. Still, Beline will always be my first. That was 4 decades ago. Fond memories for me. But I have not
Lisa. I was after the East Central game. And to date, the worst football game I had ever played in. I mean, I was embarrassed on how bad I did. And we won. I just sucked that game. And we were behind the field house. And I was like, this is fucking. To console me, my first kiss. And I'm going to tell you what.
Wow.
It was like, East Central, what? I don't even remember. Well, what just happened? I still, and you're fucking terrible at it, right? It's just like a two-car head-on collision. You just mash your face against somebody's.
Right.
And you young kids, go fuck yourself. You got Pornhub and shit. The best that we have are like soap operas, and we weren't allowed to watch them. So you can only watch it a couple seconds at a time before you got in trouble. So all you knew was, and you smash your face together. He's sitting there recalling his story. I was like, I'm sitting here remembering mine. After the East Central game, played horribly, and Lisa gave me my first kiss. And in the background, in my mind, it was Orchestra 1812 playing. But I'm sure it just sounded like you're just, ripping suction cups apart. It was fucking terrible. But oh yeah, I remember mine.
And for some reason, I
definitely
remember as a
mine.
kid, always worried I was gonna get that connected string of saliva. Like that was not like, like you pull away and there's that spaghetti noodle of
I'm about to say,
saliva connecting the two.
like the pizza commercials.
Yeah, and that shit exactly, and that is like the uncoolest thing to happen. I remember being really worried about that.
Oh yeah.
That said anything about the dark side of young passions when you are brought up in a culture of shame. In high control cultures, especially high control religions, shame is constant. There you are at puberty or beyond, you're a walking, talking, throbbing hormone, right? You're supercharged with fantasies about physical touch, passionate touch, sensual touch. On one hand, it feels natural and right. On the other hand, it feels carnal and sinful and wrong. And of course, in this hand, they usually place a Bible. I was 14. I had already looked at a woman lustfully in my heart. At 14, I was already an adulterer.
All right, we got to pause the tape real quick.
I was about to say the same. Go ahead.
There's just no way you can avoid this. This is the most natural thing, and it is what he's really saying is that at 14 years old, I was already convicted of a thought crime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the fucked up part. I remember this, and by I mean all of us that were raised in a church. That it was your number one concern because they made it your number one concern, and it's like I cannot help who I want to look at. And in my mind, I was like, why is it bad that I'm thinking about X, Y, and Z if I don't do X, Y, and Z? And they just, again, all they did was shame a very natural impulse. And I've said in my shows, if you can't be safe in your own mind, then where can you be safe? There is a cavernous difference between me looking at that person and thinking I want to have sex with that person versus me going over there and doing it. And just the mere thought made you a horrible person. And you have to shoulder that burden at 13, 14 years old. That's fucked up. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Absolutely. And so it starts really, really young. And it's funny, though, that a lot of people never grow out of it. I remember working for a pastor, and he was just so convicted by his porn. I mean, he was a minister. He had got married. He had a family. And he would, we were in like urban New Jersey. It's like very, a lot of real shit going on. Gangs and crime and poverty, all types of shit. And he swore up and down the road he was just as broken. His life was just as messed up as anybody's. Because he had used the parents' credit card to call a sex hotline or something like that. And it was one of those experiences when I look back on it that you see the intersection of religion and privilege to where you just don't have real problems in your life. So you make them up. Oh, yeah. And then pretend that your made up problems are really just as bad as everybody else's. I always say if the worst thing that's ever happened to you is something that happened to somebody else, you got it pretty good.
Pretty much. I like that.
I felt desires in my youth. I had failed in righteousness. I was captivated by her eyes, her face, her voice, her shape, her laugh, her mind, her heart, her person. Hardline Christianity had taken my personal hetero attraction to females, and it had turned it into a minefield. I was going to say booby-trapped, but that might be inappropriate. Purity culture breeds dysfunction. It takes creatures of innate desire and commands them not to desire.
But
how do we do this? Well, we must desexualize them. First stop.
Oh, go ahead. But I remember it was right here in this damn living room. Kenny, the pastor that I spoke to the most 12 years ago when people were trying to get me to come back to the flock. And I just remember, long story short, a light bulb going off in my head. Again, everything I threw out, he was saying it was a sin. You can't do it. You're going to go to hell. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, hold on, dude. So let me get this straight. So basically just being a human makes you bad. And I'll never forget his response. He's like, yes, like, Robert got it. Like, now he's going to join, the flock again. And I'm like, how fucked up is that? Again, he's right. It is a natural impulse. There's nothing wrong with being sexual. We're wired to be sexual, with a very few noted exceptions in our population. We want to fuck. If you have an Audi, you probably want to put that in something. If you have an innie, you probably want something put in it. It is natural.
Mm-hmm.
And right as I said that, because I remember having these conversations with other Christians, like, if there is no God, to control our natural impulses, what's just stopping me from raping everybody? And I'm like, well, I hope the lack of fucking desire. I'm not talking about rape. I'm not talking about crimes. I'm talking about people who want to have sex. There's nothing wrong with it. And yet, sexuality at its core is bad according to Christianity, because even when you get married, there's still a laundry list of reasons of things that you can't do. So, I mean, it's like, it's a lose-lose.
Yeah. And I remember, I forget who we were listening to, and they were talking about, whether this or that sexual act was permissible. Oh, it was fucking Alan Parr. And somebody asked him, like,
yes,
is it okay to do oral? Is it okay to do anal? Is it okay to do this or that? And you got to sit there. Imagine you're married, and now you got to sit there and ask the pastor, well, is it okay to touch my wife like this? Is it okay if she rides me on top? Are we allowed to do it doggy style, or is Jesus not a fan of that? The other thing I hope is coming up, I hope the promise ring is coming up. But you ever roll up on a girl like, oh, that's cute. How long you been married? Oh, I'm not married. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. It's just a single ring. Yeah. How long you been engaged? Congratulations. That's wonderful. Oh, I'm not engaged. This is my promise ring. A promise ring.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it means I'm saving myself for Jesus.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But that's how fucked up that is. I'm about to belch. That is belch, hashtag unprofessional. That's how fucked up it is. Because first and foremost, and there's nothing wrong with the butt sex. If you want to have the butt sex, have the butt sex. But when you're using it, I don't know what today's kids are calling it, but we called it the poop hole loophole. And if you want to have anal sex, then knock yourself the fuck out. But when you're doing it in lieu of vaginal sex because you want to be sexually active, but you don't want to upset Jesus. More importantly, you don't want to upset your father. Because all the way back to biblical days, a woman's worth was what was between her legs. And until the father could quite literally sell his daughter's vagina, that was his property. That's why the Bible makes rape a property crime in Deuteronomy. It's a you break it, you buy it clause. If you rape my daughter, your punishment is now you have to marry her, because the only thing that she has of value is what she pisses out of. We shame women because at the end of the day, that's who this is pointed towards.
Absolutely.
But the woman's vagina belongs to her dad until she's married. Now it belongs to the husband. And if it's at least a purity culture that I grew up around, you take off dad's ring, give it back to him so you can get ownership by the new man in your life. Now he can have your whole because it belonged to your dad before that. I'm going to tell you something. That just sounds all kinds of fucked up. As a 50-year-old man, and I'm looking back at it. Oh, God, it was terrible. That was horrible.
All right, let's roll this tape.
Roll that fucked up ass tape.
Have them make a promise to God, and so often to God's proxy, which is your guardian, very often the male head of household, the father. By the way, it's no accident that I have used a girl in this slide. Abstinence programs like True Love Waits encourage young people to wear purity rings on their fingers. This one says, waiting for the one. By the way, Isaiah 40:31 talks about God renewing your strength. You feel carnal and weak, God will make you strong. There are purity balls, ceremonies where young girls are actually dressed up in wedding gowns, where they vow sexual chastity specifically in front of the eyes of their father. Here is a young girl at a purity ball. She's actually signing a stay of virgin contract under the eyes of her Christian dad. Many Christian cultures actually call this dating your dad.
Gross.
Now, are you ready for the veins to pop out of your head?
Probably not.
A few years ago, ABC Nightline did a whole feature on purity balls. Check this out.
Meanwhile, Ron has a special gift for Caroline before they all head to the ball.
I'm ready for you, dear. You look lovely. Well, you are growing up before your daddy's eyes. One of the things
All right, gang, I'm just going to pause this real quick and just throw the word out there. Grooming. This is some motherfucking grooming. I just don't see any. I mean, literally, you got her dressed up as the bride. You're playing the groom. This is some grooming ass shit. And the fact that this girl looks like what we really should be talking about is, so you trying to get some bubble gum? You trying to go to Disney this summer? You want to go on that roller coaster? Oh, you like that spinny sparkly thing? Yeah, spinny sparkly thing is pretty cool, isn't it? You are literally like, no, right down here, commit to me for life that you're going to be a like what? This girl shouldn't even. These kids didn't even know what the word virgin means at this age. This is crazy.
No. Get them early. Get them early when they have no intellectual self-defense.
This is insane.
we're talking to Daddy about was, when am I going to get my purity ring? And one of the things that I think is important for us to remember is this is your desire to do it the Lord's way, to really save yourself from kissing lots of toads along the way and wait for your Prince Charming to come along. And he's got to pass through your dad. And Dad's got to put the stamp of approval on him, because dads are really smart and they can separate princes from toads really well. Let me show you the ring that I got for you here. And when somebody comes along who is ready and has the proper character and will treat you like a queen, then that's the guy that passes the test. And until then, this is just a reminder. Keeping yourself pure is important. And so you keep that on your finger, and it's a daily reminder that you're, at this point, you're married to the Lord. And
this is so fucking disgusting, I can barely watch it. But words like pure, and that's a loaded term in this context. You are not lesser because you've had sex. You're not. And I'm sure they'll say it in here, but I remember in my younger Christian days, probably about when I was that little girl's age, you would hear things like, well, then again, they always aim this towards the girls. What is it? Bubble gum. They would liken the girls to bubble gum. No boy, no man wants a piece of gum that has been chewed by 50 or 60 guys. Shoes. Do you want to be, everyone wants to buy the new pair of shoes. They even have that smell that everyone likes. No one wants to put their feet in a pair of shoes that 100 other people have worn out. The sole is worn out. The tongue is hanging. The shoelaces are busted. When you say things like pure, that is a loaded term. Like as in, you will be soiled if you have sex. No, you will be sexually satisfied when you have sex. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you lesser than. So when they say things like pure, that is a loaded term. He has no idea, or he does not care how badly he is damaging this child.
For us, I remember.
That's horrible.
I remember those, but I also remember the tape. And the tape was a good one because tape sticks. It bonds. It actually bonds. And when it's fresh, you can see how tight the bond is. Oh, to rip your hair off. It's just so tight. But after you just keep sticking it and then eventually they get it and then they just put in just tape just falls off. I mean, tape, it just has no adhesion left. And this is what it's like after you've been, tried and tested by all. Oh, and you know what the best one is too? We got to throw Uncle Bobby's. This is what it's like after you've been with all those football players. You're not gonna bond to anybody.
There was definitely an extra stigma around those young ladies. Yes.
Oh,
no
man.
comment. I plead the fifth.
And your father is your boyfriend, and we're gonna have fun together.
Wait, he said that?
Out loud.
And we're gonna have fun. And so you keep that on your finger, and it's a daily reminder that at this point you're married to the Lord, and your father is your boyfriend.
Holy
and we're gonna have fun together.
Shit. Skin crawling.
Here's a creepy purity ball where they kneel in front of an actual cross with the guardians all gathered around.
Oh my
Next
goodness.
up, cover up. That ought to fix things.
Next up, cover
removing
up.
the fabric from the woman's shoulder automatically removes all inclination to lust and sin. It's really amazing. Okay, this is actually an illustration.
I have never lusted after a woman in a V-neck T-shirt. I'm telling you, once you just cover those shoulders up, I can't even.
Grabbed off of the WikiHow page, how to dress modestly. It's a prevention, because women, of course, are the gatekeepers for preventing lust and sin, right? The Apostle Paul, not exactly an egalitarian, commanded women dress modestly with decency and propriety. When I was a kid in religious schools, I had a year in the ACE program, Accelerated Christian Education. This was the kind of stuff that we were taught. This was an actual illustration from the ACE program. There's a little girl and she's looking in the mirror preparing for her day. She says, looks nice, looks good. Uh-oh, some knees are showing, too little to wear. I must look right always. Now, if I could distill this down to bullet points, here's the great wisdom that high control purity cultures have for people. Don't think like a slut.
Oh,
don't dress like a slut. Don't be a slut. And don't be tempted by the sluts. And
I'm gonna tell you something too about these skirts. So I went to Catholic schools in. I don't think the skirts were quite this long, but they actually had something called the knee length rule, which was the idea that you were supposed to be able to, like, if they put you on your knees, your skirt was supposed to touch the floor. And anytime, if your skirt was like would not pass that, then that was when they started, hey, your skirt's too short. And girls would get in trouble a lot. I mean, we all got in trouble for different things, but lots of girls were getting in trouble for their skirts were too short or whatever. It was just ridiculous. By the way, I don't know what that stereotype comes from, because the Catholic school uniform to me is about the most unsexy thing imaginable. But
this is hard to watch.
He said, ask Lauren Boebert about propriety. Y'all got to check out Uncle Bobby, man. Uncle, did she not take you back to high school though? Did she not take you back to high school? Like literally in the theater, totally. Getting felt up and giving out the hand job. Like, what are you, 16?
I 100% remember going to the movies, actually with the girl that I kissed for the first time. Nothing. There was no completion. Same thing happened. And I was like, is she touching my... This is the greatest movie of all time. That happened one time, and I didn't have a fucking driver's license. That's how old or young I was at the time. And This is a grown-ass woman, a grandma, jerking some dude off in a goddamn theater. Holy shit.
The great thing is they got it all on tape. All of it. Oh, man.
Well, let's
be a slut. And don't be tempted,
Don't be
by,
tempted
the
by the
sluts.
slut.
And who's the target for most
Yeah,
of
they roll the
these
waistband
commands?
up, exactly.
Of course, it's the female. The perception has long been that men, much more than women, are sexually activated visually. So we have to mute what men see. By the way, there are some neuroscientists who are challenging the claim that it's only men who are visual while women are not. The National Academy of Sciences published an article in 2019 saying that both male and female brains respond in very similar ways to visual stimuli. Other research says, yes, male primates do more rely on visual stimuli, visual cues. This leans into primate mate selection. There's a great book that gets into some of this. I narrated the audiobook by Dr. Hector Garcia called Alpha God, where we get into some of this, including the key to some of this, which is male dominance behaviors in primates. But as self-aware primates, as higher primates, we don't have to be slaves to the amygdala. David Michael Buss is an American evolutionary psychologist. He's an expert in human sex differences and mate selection.
I know David
and he
Buss
makes the
stuff.
necessary point. A scientific description of evolved behaviors is not the same as a moral prescription for that behavior. Not every evolved trait is going to be a civilized or moral or pro-social one. And we as conscious...
That is really important, though. It's a really important point.
What's that?
That a description of our evolved state is not a proscription for our morality and how we should live. It's super important. Matter of fact, I always say when people get this, it's why when you start to have a social or moral or political conversation, see our current conversations about trans issues, and people jump to biology, you're already doing it wrong. You already fucked up.
Oh, wow.
You already messed up. Biologists provide natural explanations to natural phenomena. Literally, our job is to describe the world. It is not to tell you how you should live or what. It's just to tell you, oh yeah, this group is like this group is like that. These people are tall, these people are small. Yeah, they do this thing over here, they do that thing over there. That is it. There are no shoulds in biology.
I like that.
Yeah, this is a good point.
Beings, higher primates have evolved the ability to override old programming. In other words, we can experience and acknowledge the evolutionary triggers that draw our eyes toward a beautiful person while choosing not to entertain or engage in objectification, obsession, or predation. This stuff gets really, really complicated. It's a whole other speech. But I want to take a second and talk about the priming of young males, building on the evolution.
Bobby, you know this. This is like your job, right? You deal with a lot of vulnerable young ladies, and they come to you and they trust you. They're in a vulnerable situation. A lot of them have been through a vulnerable experience, and you're there to teach them and help them. I have the same responsibilities. I might think one thing if I saw somebody on a dating app or approached them on the street, put that same person in my classroom and all that shit shuts down because they're now my student.
There was my very first teacher when I went down the road of self-defense, Rodney, and I'll never forget. We're sitting there, we're learning, and someone asked what I believe to be a very obvious question. What if? What if someone walks in that door and she is knocked down? And before he could even finish his sentence, he was like, don't. And like you said, these people are coming to you in an insanely vulnerable moment. Some of it has happened. Sometimes it hasn't happened. But either way, when that thought gets into your head, they feel it. You are there to do a job, and not just any job, arguably one of the most sensitive jobs out there. And I've been at this for so long. You're in a position of trust. You're a teacher to where it doesn't matter. You just, You just don't see that person that way, no matter how physically attractive they may be. It just you view them in a different lens in that setting. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Of some dominance behaviors. This model often sees the men excuse dominance behaviors expected while females are subjugated, blamed, and shamed. Many times we see this in fundamentalist religions. Of course, we know this when we open our Bibles to the book of Genesis. The story of Christianity starts with Eve produced as a byproduct of Adam. She is created subordinate. Eve tempted Adam to taste the forbidden fruit. And how did God punish Eve? Sexually. Genesis 3:16. I will surely expand your pain and your pregnancy. In pain you will bear children, and against your husband will be your desire, but he should rule over you. Her punishment, this is called Eve's curse. Childbirth is going to hurt like a mother, and when you have sexual desire for your husband, it will be part of that curse.
And I just gotta say, how fucked up this is. First off,
this is hard to hear.
You have the first woman descending from the first man. Yeah, that I don't think that's quite how that works. So we've already got this fucked up. But again, like, what a cruel God, right? We're literally supposed to believe before this happened, oh, everything was cool. You know, birthing. Oh, there would have been no birthing pain. Crops. You just sprinkle some seeds and then poof, the crops come up. You don't have to toil against the land. But then that snake juke stepped Eve, and now everything's fucked up. You know, Eve got cursed. The land got cursed. You know, it's just. I really just want Christians to stop and think when they present God to us as a moral character. God's a moral monster. There's no way around it. But they can't.
And everything that he said, I already knew. Most of us already knew. But it is really hard to sit here and listen to that. And it's part of the reason why, in my opinion, we do. And he said it. We shame the victims of sex crimes. It's always their fault. And this is just all kinds of fucked up. I mean, it just all of that. And it's all pointed towards the woman. I know women at work who have 100% been in these emotional battles with themselves. They like wearing yoga pants. It's comfortable. They can work out, they can do whatever, and then just go and run errands, do whatever they have to do. They don't have to worry about going home and changing. You can still look, all that stuff. I'm like, then wear your yoga pants. What seems to be the problem? Well, the man at the store or wherever, he may look at my butt, and my butt's only for my husband. I was like, I can't even comment on that. I've had this discussion, or I've listened to women say that to my face.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think your butt is yours. There's your first, mistake as far as I'm concerned. But you don't want to wear yoga pants because you don't want to tempt other dudes. I don't think that's how this works. But it's all on the shoulders of the woman.
Yes.
And that right there is a perfect illustration.
I've actually never seen a man with a purity ring. I've never seen a young man's purity ball or any of this shit. And the other thing that we got to remember is the suffering of that woman. It's all silly to some extent, right? But I always remember that's somebody who's suffering. That's someone who isn't free to wear what they want. And can you imagine the crippling anxiety having to agonize over every micro decision? Am I showing too much shoulder? Do my ankles, are these heels too long? It's
all the time. See it all the time. And it plays out in real life. I can't remember where it was. I just remember it was a Baptist pastor. I would say sex, but it was rape because she was a teenager. like
Right,
14,
right.
15 years old. And this was a grown ass man.
Mm.
Now, this child became pregnant through one of their sexual encounters.
Wow.
And instead of the obvious, beating his ass until he was a puddle of nothing, just still sitting there, no, they shamed the girl. They
Wow.
shamed the girl. Well, if you weren't so hot and so sexy at 14 years old, you're dirty whore. Now, you saw the way you were wearing that skirt. What did you think that man was going to do? Again, they're fuckers like that dude giving the ring to his daughter. They're tough only when it doesn't matter. Because I promise you, the exact same sack of shit who sat there and gave his daughter a purity ring, if that shit happened, he'd be the first one to blame his daughter. Instead, I'm like, the pastor did a what?
Right.
To a who?
The other
You
thing is
got me fucked up. Yeah.
The other thing is I wonder, they talk about young men and I'll approve them, and then you can swap rings and da-da-da-da-da. I wonder what would happen if a year or two out from that, all of a sudden, one of the pastors, one of the men from the church started showing an interest in her. Because these same people that are all about this purity culture, all about this hardcore, don't have sex, da-da-da-da, they're also the child marriage crowd. They're unironically the people they're serious though, right? They're literally passing laws to, make it legal so that, you can marry a grown ass man. So it's purity culture. Oh, what? A man of God wants you? Oh, you better be ready. These guys are insane.
Very, very.
It's weird. It's almost as if the story was written by men. Okay. Anybody here familiar with Lilith?
Yes.
Lilith. She's only mentioned one time in the Bible, but ancient Babylonian tradition and some Christian traditions know her as the first wife of Adam, coming before Eve, if you'll pardon the expression. Confident, together, independent, sexually liberated female, not submissive. She's too independent for God and Adam. She was cast out as the demonic seducer to make way for the more submissive Eve. Also in the Bible, Delilah, she seduced and betrayed Samson. His life was destroyed when she cut off his hair and stole his divine strength. The alluring Jezebel convinced King Ahab to worship the false god Baal and kill the prophets of Yahweh. The book of Revelation has a female destroyer. She is adorned in gold and pearls. She rides a scarlet beast holding a cup filled with what? Fornication. She is the mother of harlots, the whore of Babylon. Even the Christian apocalypse myth has an adorned female seductress bringing destruction. Oh, you women, you're the sirens, aren't you?
This is so fucked up, I can't put it into words. I have often said, through all my years of teaching women self-defense, I have learned more from those ladies than I could ever teach them. I now have a viewpoint on the world that I would have never had. As a larger than average man, I will never see the world through the eyes of someone who's 5'4", 100 nothing pounds. This is hard for me to listen to now that I've had my viewpoint changed. And every time I hear someone like a Seth, talk on topics like this, I now realize why the United States is as fucked up as it is. We demonize our female population. So much, in fact, I remember, I'm sure you guys saw all this crap too. When you sit there and you ask, it's Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. That was not a choice. That was not a choice. You had a reality TV show star, a vile, putrid human being, and then you had an actual politician. And then you would ask some conservative women, why aren't you going to vote for Hillary? Because women shouldn't lead. And you're looking at it and you're like, but you squat to piss too.
Yes.
We were built on this foundation.
Yes.
And I almost feel guilty because we don't have a woman on the mic kicking this. It's just two people with dicks. But we were built on a foundation of bullshit. We were built on a foundation of misogyny.
Yes.
To where you can literally sit there and look at a pregnant 14-year-old girl. And the only thing to do that is the least bit correct is to kick the shit out of the grown man that raped her. But almost the entirety of that church looked at her and called her a sexy slut and then blamed her for that man not being able to control the urges that he had.
Right.
And you get the pass when you sit here and you, again, these are your Christian values, ladies and gentlemen. These are your Judeo-Christian values that you keep hearing about. Let's give a pass to rapist. It's her fault. Jesus H. Christ.
Yeah, and the internalized misogyny is crazy.
Crap.
Like, I don't have to tell you, bitch, you can't run for president. If you are going to literally tell me, I just don't think the presidency is a job for a woman. Oh, well, my job here is done. Yeah. It's also like the when the pastor confesses that he had an affair and he's so sorry. I mean, I've seen this one example of this happening, and he's up on the pulpit confessing, and you can hear the woman in the audience sobbing, and everybody is, it's okay, pastor, we love you, we're gonna forgive you, we're gonna get and they rally around him over the tears of the victim who is sitting right there. It's incredible. And believe it or not, I'm actually a country music fan, and I've heard women say the same thing about country music. Oh, I love me some country music. I just don't like it when the women sing. What? I don't even know. What do you even say to that? But yeah, it's crazy.
But that's art of war rule number one, right? Why defeat your enemy? Why use your resources to defeat your enemy when you can make them do it themselves?
Yeah,
I know lots of family attorneys, family law judges, and they will tell you it could be the easiest. You can have the fuck face on tape doing it. When it's time for a jury to be selected to look over a rape case, any judge and any family law attorney will tell you, when you look in the juror's box and it's majority women, the rape victim has lost. They say you want men on that in the jury box, because statistically speaking, if there's 12 jurors and 8 of them are women, they know we've lost. It's only a matter of time. So it's that internalized hatred. Why am I going to waste my time fucking you up when I can make you do it yourself? Yeah, this is fucked up. This is fucked up.
Absolutely. All right, let's see how much of this we get through.
Yep.
You beckon us men into calamity and sin. Oh, I see you out there.
Uncle Bob, you got the red cup out today?
Fundamentalist Islam, of course, has a ton of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Desexualize them so that they will not be abused. And by the way, I need to clarify something. I've used the word desexualize a few times. This is actually ironic because the effect is the opposite. The more you hyper-target someone to try to desexualize them, you're actually over-sexualizing them. You're treating them as a sexual creature first. So you are defeating your own purpose by targeting someone in that way. Okay, here is an alarming example of purity culture out of the Mormon Church. A few years ago, there was a video shown at something called the Youth Standards Night for the LDS Church. And they took the One Direction song, You Don't Know You're Beautiful, and they retooled it with a message for young women. Prepare yourself for cringe.
Don't pick young man.
Oh, this is like the boy band from hell.
Dressing modest,
Gang, what's the B2K or whatever, that boy band with like 20 members? That's what this is. What do they call themselves? They call themselves Y2K. We're about to get a purity culture song from the boy band from hell.
We know it's rough when the world is making it so tough.
Oh my God.
Short skirts or low cut shirts.
Oh no.
Being the way that you are is enough.
Oh no.
Everyone else doesn't seem to care. Everyone else but you. Baby, you light up the world like nobody else. By the way that you speak and respect.
Oh my God. Oh, this is worse than the intro video.
No. I want you guys to know, because of these fucked up ass videos, I am going to do a fucking just this week. That's what I'm fight against. What is
it
this?
is.
What is this? Is this real? What is this?
Goodness.
What's the end goal here? What are they trying to prove? Or is this really supposed to stop people from having sex?
I don't know.
Work.
I don't know, but if the goal was to stop these dudes from getting laid.
Oh, well, that. You guys, please forgive what it is I'm getting ready to say. This is just a term from the 90s. This would what we would call back in our day. This is some pussy repellent. This
Yes.
yes. Is to make sure that no vagina ever gets wet while you are in the room.
Yeah, shrivel it up like a prune.
Oh yeah, these fuckers have never been in the room when a woman has had an orgasm. This much. Oh my God.
Oh my Lord.
You are so beautiful, if only
oh my goodness.
I can see you understand why I need your honesty. Right now I'm talking to
Pause the tape. That right there, your modesty. This goes to, this is male insecurity right here. This is why we have the mindset that if a guy has sex with 50 girls, he's a stud. If a girl has sex with 3 boys, she is a whore without redemption. I need your modesty, right? That goes back to the, was his dick bigger than mine? Was he better than I was? Here's the thing. Here's the fucking thing. What your girl, and now I'm talking to the dudes, and yes, I'm being heteronormative, what your girl did before you's got fucking nothing to do with you. I would hope that whoever I'm dating had a vibrant sex life before she got to me. You want to know why? Sex is fantastic, and there's nothing wrong with having it, right? And so that right there, it just speaks to crippling male insecurity.
Yeah.
I need your modesty. I need to know that I'm the only person that's been inside of you. And I'm like, dude, again, fellas, let me ask you a question. Do you like sex? Okay, that answer is yes. You'll never guess what. So do women. So do women.
Absolutely.
This bullshit that you needed to be sexually unsatisfied before I got to you, that I'm the only person that's ever rung that bell before. Grow the fuck up. It's not 1949 anymore. I could not let that pass.
The other thing is these are the same guys who, when they get married, because you know, half of this boy band is gonna become pastors. And what they do is they love to get on stage and talk about their wives, and their favorite thing is to talk about, well, you know, before she was saved, she was out there and da 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 da. But when we got married, you know, basically they'll say like something like, I had to cope with her previous sin.
Yeah.
You know, I had to, it's like basically they're a victim of the fact that she had, you know, a boyfriend or had sex before marriage. And then you'll see the women sort of beat themselves up over it too. Oh, I'm just so lucky that he, you know, forgave me and he was willing to show me grace over my previous sinful ways when I was in college. And they'll basically more or less say that, and you can read between the lines and tell that the issue is she had some freaky phases. She did some exploration, right? And now she knows what she likes and what she wants. And when she brings it up, hey, you know, I like this, or I'm kind of interested in trying that. He's all like, how could you? Right. And then that's where he interprets it as he has to deal with, you know, her past sin. It's so this stuff literally keeps them crippling insecurity their whole lives.
There was an old joke from Andrew Dice Clay. And when I heard this, I can't even remember if I was really sexually active. I just remember laughing my ass off because like he nailed it. And he was like, hey fellas, is your girl good at sucking your dick? And the dudes, of course, are like, yeah. How do you think she got that way?
Right.
And that was that simple punchline right there. Half the guys probably laughed at it, and the other one's like, oh. Again, crippling levels of insecurity. God forbid your girl enjoyed a vibrant sex life before she got to you. And I saw in the side chat, you know, it's better when your partner knows what they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, babe, I'm trying to jam it in your ear. You like that, don't you? And it's like, if you don't get your monkey ass out of this room, that was disgusting. I need your modesty.
Yeah.
No, you need some fucking self-esteem.
Yeah. And also I would always say, you know, you learn sex probably like I learned to play the drums, which is watching the professionals and practice. And sex is the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, fucked up tape.
Virtue is so beautiful. That's what makes you beautiful.
The Cringe Street Boys.
Okay.
Instinct.
Did you catch it? Did you catch it? You'd understand why I need your
There it
modesty.
is. There it is.
There you go.
Does that line sound alarmingly rapey to anybody else? Cover up. I need you to cover up. You're the gatekeeper for how I think, how I feel, what I do. At the very least, it is saying that women are responsible for how men act and react in a sexual way. Purity culture's obsession with females primes males in ways that they may not even realize. And please understand, I'm not generalizing all men or young men into a predator category. We see it happen way too often. But males are often the victims of purity culture. I was a victim of purity culture. They tried to desexualize me and blame and shame me. I took a purity pledge. I didn't have a ring, but I did promise fidelity before man and God to remain sexually pure, which kicked off years and years of struggle. Boys are often biblically brainwashed for dominion. Here is a parent training guide. This was produced by James Dobson's outfit in Colorado, Focus on the Family, written by a minister. It's a guidebook for fathers to raise a modern day knight. And of course, knights in God's army must wear armor. We've got the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the belt of truth.
Pause the tape. Pause the tape. Again, this is more fucked up. Okay. Women can't have sex, and when they do, they can't enjoy it. The whole must be war. I hate all of this. It's really pissing me off. In order to be a man, right? Now you've got your helmet. Now you've got your breastplate. Now you got your shield. This is why. Shut the fuck up. Manliness is not tied to violence.
Yes.
And that may sound weird coming out of a former football player and a martial artist, but my point is I'm just as quote unquote masculine as the man who's a principal ballet dancer for Alvin Ailey.
Right.
There is no standard. It's like the standard of black. I know you've dealt with it. I've had to deal with it. Well, you sound white. Man, go fuck yourself. There is no one standard of black, just like there's no one standard.
They always say
but
your English is so good. I always say thanks. It is my first language.
Yeah, it's like, what'd you expect from me? And Titus Belch, hashtag unprofessional. I abhor violence. I just so happen to be very good at it. I know men who will crumble at the mere conversation of violence. And you'll never guess what? You're just as much of a man as I am. But it's things like this. It's women, you had to wear the ring. Your only worth is what's in between your legs. Men, if you aren't out slaughtering, killing, murdering, and conquering, what kind of man are you? This whole story reeks of fucked up ass expectations for both sides of the gender line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is
it also
horrible,
just speaks
man.
to the,
Horrible.
like you said, the militarization of the whole thing. You know, Christians are always, my God is love. God loves everybody. Peace, peace, peace. Jesus is righteousness, peace, and salvation, and all of this. But everything in the Christian faith is about war and battle, and they put it right in front of you. And it's like you don't even recognize, you know, it's like if somebody came up to me and they were like, yeah, so here's your camouflage uniform. Yeah, it says private first class, Dr. Bundy on there. Yeah, so here's your AK-47. Here's how you reload this. Yeah, you're gonna need some rations. What's going on? What the fuck are we doing? Because this looks like you're trying to get me ready for war, and I didn't sign up to go to war. Right? Like, but they don't even know. They're like, oh yeah, helmet. Oh yeah, I definitely need a helmet and my breastplate. Oh, gotta have my shield. Yeah, gotta have my sword. Like, come on, man.
All kinds of fucked up.
Jews of peace and the sword of the Spirit. By the way, I was sent a video clip of one Christian man literally wielding his sword of the Spirit. This is Storehouse Church in Jasper, Alabama.
I saw it.
Oh, this should be good.
I know it. Yep.
He's a praise dancer.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Outside of the fact that he almost decapitated his own pastor. That's a penis, right? That's a penis. A projection of male.
Also, I just got to say real quick, that's the day I quit the worship team.
When you saw shit like this.
Yeah. There's the guy fucking swinging his sword around. I'm dropping my sticks. Nope, I'm done. I'm done.
This is so horrible. But another fucked up thing is, first and foremost, church has clearly changed. If I would have even thought about wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and a baseball hat inside of the church that I went to, holy shit.
Yeah.
But the fucked up thing is a real fucked up ass standard. And it's, if you saw a man at a poetry slam. No, I went to a Broadway musical in New York. I wept openly at Fosse's interpretation of Mr. Bojangles. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and I wept openly. If you were to see a man cry at art, he would be called a faggot, a pussy. Then you see some idiot in a church wielding a sword, badly, by the way, 7th degree.
Yeah, bad. Oh yeah, that's it. It's got to be bad.
And that is your measure of manly. Did you see how manly he was? Come on, man. That's just, this is
also privilege. If you or I roll into the church parking lot and pull out a claymore sword and start walking towards the building, we're not making it through the front door.
No, not
what? But this is just my sword of the Spirit, and I'm here to do my praise dance. I'm sorry, you're definitely not entering this building with that weapon.
Jesus.
You know, all of a sudden the police will be there. Yeah, there's a weapon of mass destruction. It's a hand. No, nope, hell no.
business and chest-banging warrior strength dominating fundamentalist cultures once again. And we see this in Christianity. There's a lot of this type of language, rites of passage. There are tests of virtue, sacred oaths. You go on holy missions or quests. You are a man crusading for God. When I was in Christian radio in the 1990s, we saw the Promise Keepers movement. This was a revival specifically targeted to men. We saw tens of thousands of people at a time filling these massive football stadiums to commit themselves to godly manhood. And the model was this: men are the final word, sex only in marriage, and of course, as Yahweh is a heterosexual man's man.
Hetero marriage only. I know we just got to quickly call out that homophobic bullshit. Uncle Bobby, I'll tell you what I saw the other day. I was at, I had to go to Walmart, and I pulled up, and I was already feeling it because I live in Michigan. So anytime I go to Walmart, I go, this is where all the conservative and Trumpletons hang out. Let me bring an extra mask. But as soon as I pulled up, the lady in front of me had a bumper sticker, and it said, straight conservative Christian. Yes. How else can I offend you today?
Can I piss you off?
Yeah,
yes, I've seen that.
And I just thought, I'm not pissed. I'm just glad you got them in the right order, right? Because straight conservative Christian, that's the right order. Their primary thing is to be bigots. Their second thing is to be conservative ass Republicans. And I guess before the day's over, throw some Jesus in there.
And boys, young men, husbands, fathers, etc. Be strong, be solid, be manly, be masculine. Of course, we're not talking about masculinity in the healthy sense, right? Natural masculinity is wonderful. But the hierarchy model in many fundamentalist purity cultures is one of toxic masculinity. Ask the women in this room about the mansplainers. Right? Chauvinism, male chauvinism, kind of looking down at women. Let me show you how it's done, little lady. Everybody in this room's got a story, trust me. How many boys and men have been terrified of being called what they have been taught is one of the ultimate insults? What are you, queer? You gay? You fag?
What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
Aren't true, men.
Everything was
this
gay.
This thinking goes well beyond religion, too. I have had this happen on my own pages. I post a podcast or a video or something, and someone will jump in and say something really nice. I love Seth's voice. I go, oh, thank you. What a lovely sentiment. What a great compliment. Made my day. Thank you so much. But they can't leave it there. They have to follow up with,
no homo.
No homo. How insecure is that statement?
Exactly.
Because in that perception,
I just got to give a shout out to moms real quick. When I was young, I said something about a man being handsome or something like that. And maybe I felt a little weird or something. Exactly. But my mom, I remember we were riding in the car, and she said to me, I was young, y'all, like a kid, like not even in high school, not junior high, probably middle school or something. And my mom said, you should always be comfortable enough with who you are as a person to compliment another man. And that was one of the really good life lessons I'm happy that my mother gave me, because you need to cut that shit out when they're young.
Absolutely.
And non-heterosexual men, well, they're not actual men. No. A lot of people like to talk about men back in the day. Primal man, masculine, manly man. Okay, great. These were the ones in charge, the manly man. And I always like to remind these people about some other manly men who lived in the halls of power who looked like this.
From local
in the United States, they're going after drag queens. I'm like, have you read a fucking history book? Do you have any idea what you're Physical response to emotional issues. We've all heard the men don't cry thing, right? Confusing healthy human vulnerability with weakness. I'll give you something to cry about. Be strong, suck it up. We hear a lot of that. And the grunting displays of noble aggression. Settle it with fist in the parking lot, lock and load. I'll show you who's the man. Male assertions of dominance and power. And these are very often sexual in nature. Like the guy with the sword, we've got this dude. How America is this, by the way? How United States is this? And I think it sums up 21st century biblical manhood. You mark your territory, you puff out your chest, you give him the 1,000-yard stare, and then you extend your penis with a firearm, right? Notice how the insults toward women are so often sexual in nature. In your mind, make a list of the popular insults hurled at men and the popular insults hurled at women. The ratio's not even close. It's so telling to watch people, especially women, valued and or devalued sexually first. Another example, of course, is one you're familiar with. A man with a lot of sex partners, he's a playboy, he's a ladies' man. A woman with a lot of sex partners, she's a whore and a slut and a bimbo and a tramp. And often, religious culture, certainly purity cultures of all stripes, condition people to think like this. What about good people who struggle through the indoctrination of sexual stereotypes? They're overwhelmed by it all, the blaming and the shaming, this idea that they have to submit themselves in every way to God, and by proxy then, the church body. Anybody here familiar with the concept of church discipline? This insidious scenario has people of all ages.
Steph, I heard you talking about that. I didn't see the chat because I think I'm not sure if he was on your channel because I was kind of bouncing forth between your channel and Skeptic Haven since you were co-streaming. But I just want to apologize, Steph. That was just really fucked up. And you have a fucking lovely voice. That was someone who was just reaching for a fucking insult and trying to go to something that I think they assumed you might be vulnerable about. But that was super fucked up, Steph.
Reporting their quote-unquote moral failures to the pastor, the church leadership, and the entire congregation. If it is discovered you had sex outside of marriage, or you had an affair, or you watched porn, or you were caught in a non-hetero relationship, or whatever, pastors and parents drag you before the entire church body, and you are then made to confess. You say a prayer of repentance, and you promise before your accountability partners that you will never do it again. You are being watched. Now, this gets tricky because I'm not talking about accountability in the healthy sense. Let's say you're struggling with an issue like addiction, and you've got somebody that can work with you to navigate through difficult times. You're struggling with something, you want to reach a goal, you have a weak moment, you call a friend. I don't call that accountability, I call that community. This version of accountability is much more Orwellian. Someone else is made aware of your most private thoughts and struggles so that they can keep you on the straight and narrow, to help distract you, to pray away the weakness, and then intercede to God for your forgiveness and to surveil and report. How far do some churches take this? Check out this example from my hometown.
Oh, I know what he's going to say. I know what he's going to say.
Who is a former believer, went to this church, and
what's the prediction?
All right, so the Austin Stone, 12 years ago, they were trying to get me to come back to the flock. I told them, I will go to your church service, but the only condition is I get to ask all the questions I want. So a couple of them, said, okay. They took me to the month where they talked about sexual sin. And the last week, and it was jerking off, homosexuality. I can't remember what the third, but the last one was, no, that one I did go to. But at the end of the sermon, there's this list that you signed up for. And, you put your email address or however the fuck it works. So everyone on that list can now see the websites that Jay Bundy went to. So if you're checking your bank, they can't see what you're doing. They just know where you've been. You want to check the latest sports scores. You want to do this. You want to do that. But if you got on bigbootyredhead.com, they could see you. And then they would shame the shit out of you. So I'm wondering, is it going to be one of those accountability type of things to where we can see what you're doing? So it shames you into not doing, or it makes you go get a burner phone or a laptop that you didn't sign up for and do it that way.
One of those apps is called Covenant Eyes. And it's one of those accountability ones you set up with a partner and you put it on all your devices. And I had a friend who actually worked for Covenant Eyes. Apparently, he was working for them remotely. He's working out here. And it was a really weird thing because we were friends. Like, we were friends. And, I was on the worship team. He was on the tech team. We actually got along well. We were in the same, like Bible study group. And it was a weird thing because I'm an evolutionary biologist, right? So he accepted that I'm an evolutionist or whatever. And even though he thinks that stuff's crazy, he would he was happy that I had a job that meant a lot to me. And then it was weird because I think Covenant Eyes is sitting on some bullshit, but he was so happy to have a job that filled him with a sense of purpose. Like, he looked at it as he was fortunate enough to be employed in a way that furthered the kingdom. So it was always a weird little standoff kind of between us, and we communicated honestly about it. But it was really, but what it really showed me is in the perspective, I guess I'd want the audience to know, is that there are people who are true believers that are running these apps and these sites. They're about that life, and they think this is the war on porn is super meaningful.
God. Jesus Christ.
The pastor did a whole sermon on sexual purity, and he had a segment in the sermon about masturbation. And he directed that portion of the sermon specifically to males, because, of course, females never masturbate. Yeah, right. Okay. Anyway, this pastor came up with a way to protect men from this particular sin. And I am not making this up. He assigned masturbation partners. By the way, this is why you should never pose for stock photos right here. These poor guys have no idea what I have done to them on this day. No, I didn't do a casting call for masturbators. This is a stock image. Okay, here's the deal. The idea is this. You are tempted to engage in the devil's handshake, okay? And you realize, I am lusting. God is watching. I must resist these fantasies and this physical feeling of lust. So you call a buddy and you confess, and this is supposed to produce some kind of a cold shower effect, right? You pray with a partner and it all goes away. Of course, this is insanity. It is also genius. It's genius. Control somebody's sexual identity, you got the whole person.
Oh, yeah.
Who they are, what they think, how they live, who they love, if they self-love. By the way, you have not lived until you have researched Victorian-era masturbation preventions. Holy shnikes. Physicians at the time were warning the public masturbation would lead to all kinds of problems. Mental illness, physical disease, of course, the sickness of sin, even death, physical death. So in the 1800s, we saw doctors and clergy prescribing these penis torture chambers that were supposed to bend and grab and poke and spear men out of having a troublesome erection. There are tons of versions of these for women as well. It's crazy. All right. All
right, shameless plug. Subscribe to Stephanie Helms down in the description. Steph's been on fire.
I actually just did.
Fantastic.
Already established, God likes to watch. We've already established that. Biblical sex is always a threesome. We have established that. How sadistic is the God model for sexuality? Let's say puberty hits at 12 years old. The median age for marriage in the United States is around 30. That is 18 years where any sex would be premarital sex. 18 years of innate sexuality that people are told to suppress. Almost 2 decades at war with a body that God intelligently designed to sexually activate early. But wait, there's a remedy for that. If you don't think you can wait, get married as soon as you can.
Okay.
1 Corinthians says, but if they cannot control themselves.
So I think I know I'm not alone on this one, but sex was always a huge conflict for me when I was younger. And especially when, one, you're in college, two, you're a Division I athlete. In my case, I was a starter. People knew who I was. And three, I was part of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I remember going to a meeting once, and I think it was one of the last meetings I ever went to. It's like, this is sitting on some bullshit. But I was like, okay, well, how many chances do we get? You say, well, God will forgive us, but we're not supposed to be doing this. And I never once said the word sex, but it's like, you know what I'm talking about. I'm in a room full of broad-shouldered, slim-waisted, muscular, handsome black guys. We run this fucking university. Before you came to the meeting, you were doing some fucking. You know what I'm going to do after this meeting? I'm going to do some fucking. And so I just remember, and I remember who I asked it to. The guy that I looked up to the most. And I was like, how many chances do we get? How many times do we get to do this? Say, I'm sorry, before God's like, I'm not accepting your apology anymore. I can't remember what he said. I just remember the answer being so unsatisfactory. And I'm like, then why is this even a topic of conversation? We're supposed to remain, yeah. So for 18 years, we're supposed to do nothing. And especially us, where quite literally, and for those of you that aren't aware, at least how it used to work, after a home game, I'm not joking, you'd shower up, you go back to the dorm, and you would just sit right at the door of your dorm with your door open. You want to know why the door was open? You were window shopping. If a female was walking in the dorms after the game, it was just understood what was going to happen. So you'd be like, okay, let's do this. And it would happen. There was no rape. There was no nothing. She wanted to be there. We wanted to do it. It's just the way the shit worked out. And then on Wednesdays, we'd go and we'd beat ourselves up. And I'd be like, okay, well, how many more chances do we get for this? And the answer was just terrible. And so when he showed that graph, that's 18 years that you aren't even supposed to think about it. And when you do, you should beat yourself up instead of beating yourself off. I mean, yeah, you control your sexuality, you control the person, but this whole thing is ugly. It is terrible. They are demonizing that which is natural.
Yeah,
you're supposed to have sex and you're supposed to be sexual. This is just gross.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like it leads to certain unhealthy responses. So these groups are way more likely to do butt sex, right? Anal, because that's the what did you call it? The
poop hole loophole.
The poop hole loophole. They're also way more likely to get pregnant early because they're not taught about contraception. And then you have this response of getting married super early because they just effectively can't wait. So there are some serious consequences to this.
Oh yeah.
They should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. And how many very, very young people jumped into the marriage bed because they were sold the lie that physical intimacy was not legitimate unless they picked somebody and signed the papers. For many people, I'll bet for many people in this room, the honeymoon night was a nightmare. You're terrified. You've been taught nothing of value about yourself, certainly not your partner. You feel dirty and carnal, even though this was supposed to be godly sex. An intimate moment that should have been exciting and amazing became scary and awkward and traumatizing and awful. Purity couples literally fumbling in the dark, sometimes realizing too late they're not even compatible, that now they're locked in, they're committed, they're trapped, disappointed and depressed and miserable. Let's say the legal age of marriage is 18. How much did you know about yourself when you were 18?
Exactly.
Barely out of high school. You haven't gone to college, if that's what you want for yourself. You had a job that certainly wasn't a career. You hadn't navigated any adult relationships. How could you know anybody else when you were still getting to know yourself? Gone is the chance to take your time and test the waters and figure things out beyond the cocoon of youth. Exactly. Lost is the chance to learn and grow and mature through experience. The law said you were ready. The pre-marriage counselor said you were ready. Your parents and pastors said you were ready, but you were not ready. And then comes the joy of Christian marriage counseling. Oh, yeah. You know, it's a spiritual issue. Pray together. Study the Bible together. Open up to each other more. Submit more, including in the bedroom. Try harder in the bedroom. All of this communicates the problem may be you. In many churches, divorce is treated with genuine compassion. But there's still a stigma. I mean, if you believe in a soulmate, how could you ever take a second spouse? So if your soulmate was your first spouse, then if you divorced, you're betraying them with your second. Or if the second spouse was the soulmate, that means you betrayed them with your first. It's a freaking minefield. It's a joke. Even the most well-meaning divorce recovery workshops usually frame it as a spiritual problem when so often it's a compatibility problem, it's a maturity problem. Hell, sometimes it's a safety problem. I'm unsafe in this marriage, and yet I can't get out because God.
Yep. Goddamn shame.
Perhaps most ironic, I think, is the reality that so many of the holy rollers that preach against unbiblical sex so often get caught with their own pants down. Have you noticed this?
No question.
How many times have we seen it? I mean, from the corner church to the mega church. They preach from God's house, but their own house has a closet loaded with skeletons. And then we can just get ready because here it comes. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. I have sinned against thee.
I've sinned.
Oh, I was weak and in the flesh. They caught me with porn. They caught me in an affair. They caught me in a hotel with a same-sex partner.
Yeah, I got to roll here in a little bit, but there's your problem right there. They wear this shroud of ignorance like it's a good thing. There's,
Yeah, I'm still here. I'll just
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, no, it's just education would cure all of this. All of this. Teach kids about sex and sexuality. I didn't say show a 4-year-old porn. I said make it an open and honest discussion. Stop using loaded terms like pure. Stop insulting and saying things like whore and slut. Stop calling guys pussies and faggots because they cried because they got their feelings hurt. Guys have feelings too. All of this does not have to be a discussion if we could just be honest. And I remember one of my recruiting trips was to Brigham Young University in 1990. And you could not have a top 15 discussion without talking about the Brigham Young Cougars. And they were putting linebackers in the NFL. So like, you'd be a fool not to at least take the visit. So I did. And one thing I noticed was a lot of the football players had wedding rings. Like, why do these fuckers have on wedding rings? It's because they wanted to fuck, but they didn't want the guilt that came along with it. And even as an 18-year-old boy, I was like, this is fucked up. this is terrible. And then when I was thinking about actually going, and to their credit, there's no okie doke. There's no bait and switch. They let you know you're going to sign this if you're going to come here, football player or not. And it was their honor code. And the honor code was quite literally a 4-page list of things that you can't do. And of course, on there was sex and any kind of sexual activity. And I'm like, I'm out. I'm out. If I choose to remain a virgin, then that's my choice. I'm not going to sign a piece of paper that says that I can't do this, much less think about it. And I can all but guarantee the sexual dysfunction in Provo, Utah is probably one of the highest in all the United States. So yeah, it's just like, of course, when we find out that a pastor is getting his nuts juggled by, some prostitute whose name just so happens to be Michael, of course, when we find out that the pastor is raping a 14-year-old girl, of course. Again, this would be a non-discussion if we were just open and honest about sex and sexuality. This is terrible. This is horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to tell y'all what I think is the appropriate response. Hang on. If it's me, I'm going to be sitting there with a notepad. All right, so what did you say? Did you say so Danielle's been getting her freak on? Oh, okay. Yeah, we're going to add her to the prayer list. Rebecca. Rebecca's been shaking it. Oh, yeah. Well, we're gonna add her to the prayer list. What'd you say? Oh, Shanika's been getting around town. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to lay hands on her.
There's and that's just like with the masturbation partner. The first thing I thought was, you're like, oh man, I've been jerking off to takeituptheass.com. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry. Was that .org or .net? Take it up there.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, you shouldn't be watching. This is sitting on some bullshit. Oh, you shouldn't. Good. All they're doing is trading. As soon as you find out that Susie Q, now look at Buddy's monkey ass. Come here, buddy. Shit. Yeah, all they're doing is passing around information. And they're doing the exact same thing that everyone else is doing. They're just hiding it. And again, it's like any other natural impulse. Eating. Fuck around and tell your kids, don't touch that cookie. You've made that cookie their only mission in life. That age old, if you have a cookie before dinner,
exactly,
you'll ruin your appetite. No, you won't. But you know what your kids are now going to do? They're not going to just have that cookie. They're going to eat the entire fucking sleeve. Right? When you shame a natural impulse, you haven't eliminated it. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen darker and more than likely way more unsafe. Don't have sex. But I'm thinking about sex. Well, that makes you a real fucked up and horrible person. And the age-old question, well, then why did God give me these desires? Stop asking. You'll never guess what they're going to do. You'll never guess what they're going to do. Every dumpster in the back of a convenience store, someone's going to be getting bent over and having something shoved in them. In some seedy hotel. I mean, please continue to shame this natural impulse so we can continue to go down the same fucked up ass road we're going down, America. For real.
Absolutely.
You guys are even making Buddy upset. Come on, guys. You guys got to do better.
I've been banging things that weren't my Bible, and I'm so very sorry, Jesus. So I've sinned against thee. Oh. I'm reminded of this quote from the late Christopher Hitchens. He wrote this in his book, Hitch 22. He said, whenever I hear some big mouth of Washington or the Christian heartland banging on about the evils of sodomy or whatever, I mentally enter his name in my notebook and contentedly set my watch. Sooner rather than later, he will be discovered down on his weary and well-worn old knees in some dreary motel or latrine with an expired Visa card, having tried to pay well over the odds to be peed upon by some Apache transvestite.
Facts.
I've gotten to that point. If I see somebody who's at the podium preaching day, night against a specific thing, I watch those preachers very closely. Beyond the forked tongues of the do as I say crowd, it is remarkable to think that whole generations are convinced to give somebody else the keys to their private thoughts and desires, attractions, choices, partners, relationships, families, their whole lives. So many of us, we were just conditioned. We bowed down and complied. We had no idea at the time that we had every right to square our shoulders and say, this is none of your business. And a lot of people still struggle with this even today.
Yep.
It's understandable. They've been primed after a lifetime of being told who they are and what to do by other people. Oh, if I could get in a time machine, my friends, I would have some advice for the young Seth Andrews.
Me too.
And some of this advice might resonate with you. So let's take that journey now. The first piece of advice I would give to my young self would be, never take sex ed from clergy.
Exactly.
Or any other ed.
Seth, you need to know that Christian purity culture is kidding itself. Abstinence-only programs constantly fail.
No question.
They constantly fail. And this has been studied. The Journal of Adolescent Health reported that simply telling kids to cross their legs and be pure does not delay sex. It does not reduce risky behaviors. It's a trespass on the individual. It fuels dangerous ignorance. It stigmatizes young people. It reinforces harmful gender stereotypes, and it makes the problems of unwanted pregnancies and STDs even worse. And the fact that many purity culture parents and pastors are sincere, and so many are, they genuinely are trying to teach good and protect their kids from harm. Their sincerity does not mean they know what they're talking about. Often they're just downloading the same dysfunction into their children that was downloaded into them.
Pretty much.
I would tell myself that purity culture is so often about control. Christianity likes to say it's about freedom. But if you actually read the Bible, the fundamentals of the faith, Christianity is about surrender. What are we surrendering? The self. He must increase, I must decrease. We've all heard the slogans, die to ourselves, live for God, more of Jesus, less of me. I surrender all. You think about even baptism by immersion. What does that represent symbolically? I must die.
Washing off your own
I
sins.
am dying to myself, being risen essentially as someone else or with the identity of another, because I am not worthy. And unless you think the modern church is not still infected with this nonsense, allow me to introduce you to conservative influencer, podcaster, and minister on Instagram. Her name is Ali Stuckey, and she posted this little sermonette in March of 2022.
Okay, I know I probably sound like a broken record to a lot of you, but because this is a message that keeps on showing up in Christian women's circles, I feel like I need to say it again. You are not enough. You're not enough. Nowhere does the Bible say that you are sufficient. Nowhere does the Bible say that you're perfect the way you are. And that is good news. It's actually great news. You know why? Because you're not enough. You never will be. But Jesus is.
Pause the tape. Pause the tape. Pause the tape.
Ali Stuckey has.
Okay. I don't have to tell y'all that's sitting on some bullshit. Best part about Christianity, it requires no commitment. You wouldn't raise your kids like this. Matter of fact, we raise our kids the exact opposite. We all tell our kids, you can do anything you want, just put your mind to it, the blase and the flavonoids.
Right.
I responded. There have been 2 times I responded to something on Twitter only to get a backlash from Christians. The first one was, I don't think those girls were 10 years old. And with chalk on the sidewalk, what'd they say? It was something along the lines of, all we need is Jesus. My response was, give these little girls some self-esteem, they'll be just fine.
Right.
I got ripped by Christians telling me how fucked up those little girls were. What kind of fucked up message is that to give those girls, that they're worth something? What kind of fuck? I'm like, wait, are you serious? I just said, I even did a show. And I remember I entitled it, "This Atheist Thinks More of You Christians than your God does." And then there's this bull. And I'm trying to, then the other one was, it was a piece of paper, nothing on it. And it was in something like the number of verses in the Bible that say that you're a good person. And my response was, something smart like, can I get a price check on self-esteem on aisle 3, please? Only to have Christians rip me a new asshole. Again, what kind of message is that? Self-esteem. I even had a Christian tell me, I don't have self-esteem because you're not supposed to have self. It's like, what the fuck is your problem? Now, didn't you hear this? You are not enough. You are never enough. Again, this goes all the way back to the beginning of this show when the fuckface basically proposed to his daughter. Let me tell you guys something. I was not lucky enough to become a dad. But if I was, and my little girl sat here and told me that she was dating a man that gave her that message, bitch, you're not enough. Are you fucking kidding me? Who are you without me? You were beyond incomplete when I met you, and I barely complete the circle. You're still fucked up. You're terrible. You're not enough. You're lucky I even whip my dick out and look at you from time to time, you nasty bitch. Because that's the message that God's given us. If my daughter told me, Daddy, John told me that I was worthless, that I'm irredeemable, that I'm broken, she wouldn't be able to get past the second adjective. Like, baby, right. What's his address? Dad's going to go have a talk with Jonathan. But yeah, and you're just like, okay, you are not enough. You'll never be enough. You just, if you just only, again, I actually did a show this morning. That's emotional abuse. This is all summed up as emotional abuse. If you think about sex, which is natural, by the way, that's like saying if you think about getting hungry and you want to eat, if you're tired and you want to sleep, if you're afraid and you want to defend yourself, if you're horny and you want to have sex, those are all natural impulses. I don't have to teach anyone how to be hungry, scared, tired, or horny. These are all natural impulses. And when you shame those natural impulses, you haven't eliminated them. I mean, that was just horrible. Absolutely bullshit. You are not enough. And that was a message, I'm assuming, from a woman, probably to other women.
Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Why would I waste my own resources to defeat you when I can make you do it yourself?
Absolutely. You want to give us your closing thoughts, Uncle Bobby?
Yeah, man. This one was hard. This one was hard. I'm glad we did it. But yeah, to sit there, but that's Christianity. It gets you at your core. Bundy, you are bad simply because of your dark skin. Robert Reed, you are bad because you are 6'3", right? I just belched, hashtag unprofessional. It is who you are at your core. And it's something that Ray Comfort gets Christians with all the time. Jesus said, if you look after a woman and lust after her, you've committed adultery near your heart. Have you ever looked at a woman with lust? Getting people with something that they can't turn off, and that is their sexuality, their sexual nature. Using words like pure. You're not unpure. You're not soiled. You're not a piece of gum. You're not a pair of shoes. You're not adhesive tape. You're a sexual person. And it's not that there's anything wrong with being sexual. It's everything right about being sexual. But before I go, dudes, go fuck yourself. Absolutely, positively, please go fuck yourself. If you're one of these fuck faces still sitting here worried about what your woman did before she got to you, grow the fuck up. Get out of the 7th grade. Women like sex just like dudes like having sex. What's your body count? How many sexual partners have you had? Bragging that your girlfriend or wife was a good girl before you met her. Grow the fuck up. Grow the fuck up. If she had one, she had one. If she had none, she had none. If she had 100, she had 100. What she did before she got to you, none of your fucking concern. Me personally, I truly hope whoever it is I am dating, that they had a vibrant sex life. I hope they got it, and I hope the shit was great. Grow the fuck up. Stop putting these stupid, unrealistic expectations on women. Shut the fuck up. There.
Absolutely. To me, it just shows you that the whole faith is anti-human. It's just against our humanity, and it's all cruel. It's all incredibly cruel, and religion
100%.
has to be that way. It has to strap you with a problem that everybody has and that you have no chance of fixing, and that's what leads to believing that you're broken. And really, purity culture is one of those things that's really at the heart of Christianity, because sex is so essential to the human experience.
Yeah. Again, they get you where it counts. You cannot turn off who you are. And there's one thing that we all kind of agree on, is that sex feels good. That's why we do it. And so they shame you with that. And that's disgusting. And again, at the end of the day, it just makes it unhealthy. Because again, they're going to engage. Christians, they're going to engage in sex. It's just going to be dark. It's going to be gross. It's going to be perverted. All because we won't educate. We don't talk about. We shame. We humiliate. A woman thinks about having sex, that makes you a whore. And even when she gets married, there are things that she can't do. I mean, this is just terrible. They got you at your core. They got us all at our core. So, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, well, go ahead and sign us off, Uncle Bobby.
All right, gang. The medium guy and the big guy have held you long enough. We're signing the fuck off. The blackout. Let's go.
See you next time, gang. Come over for a hot program at 3:30. Otherwise,